Alright, we're going to make a start with coding a little bit of two-dimensional graphs. So, first thing we're going to do is just put up a poll. Let's get rid of that. From stuff we did in the first session. So, just while a few people are getting ready, I just want you to select the correct answer. So, how you'd vote is in the chat, just go exclamation mark, vote, and then put a space, and then put a number next to whether you think it's a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So which code do you think is the correct for animating a object to shift? Alright, so I will start. I will say vote. Alright, so I'm just gonna complete that poll there. Okay, so it was number 3. Okay, because you want to go whatever the object is, dot animate, because you want to animate whatever the thing is. So you go thing, animate the thing, do that particular animation that you want to do. So I mean the first one didn't have animate, so that's not going to fly. If we're telling it to play, we need to tell it to animate, and we want to just get the ordering right of saying the object and then animating. Anyway, we're on two-dimensional graphs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up a new Python file, and what I've got in it is pretty much what we're going to go over today, which is just some of our two-dimensional graphing within GraphScene, and then we're going to have a look at number planes. So I've got a learning goal there. That should be good. And if we go to Discord, if you're looking for the file that I've got all of the code in, if you go to Classroom Announce and you scroll somewhere, there it is, scroll up a little bit, code for the second lecture on 2D graphing, it should be just there. So if you want to get that, if you haven't already got it, make sure you can access that. Anyway, I'm going to do things a little bit differently this time, because I think rather than just plugging code away, I will always pre-plan whatever I'm doing. I think that's just the teacher in me, but I'll always pre-plan it. So let's say, good afternoon, Berserker. Let's say I want to create a graph with a quadratic on it and some coordinates on the quadratic. Now, this, hopefully you're getting a little bit familiar with it. I keep showing it over and over again, but it is the Cartesian plane that Manim has, I guess. It's like built into it. Let's say I want to have a plane built over here, let's say. So it goes from there along to here. Okay, and I want it to go from -3 along the x-axis, all the way up to 3, so it's along my x-axis, and I want to have a y-axis that goes all the way up to, not y, I want it to go up to 10. Y. Now, with doing this pre-planning, I want to do a bit of counting here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've gone along 6 units, and we can count that again if we go from -6 all the way up to 0. That's going to be 6 units. And here I go from -2 all the way up to 3 on my y-axis. That's like going up 5 units, which we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those numbers, remember those. This one's going to have 6 and this one's going to have 5 as heights and widths. Keep that in mind because that's going to be important for getting the coding right. So, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Can't put the pen away. I want to call the quadratic, so it'll sort of look like, I don't know, it'll sort of look like this. As a quadratic, maybe. And then I want to put a coordinate somewhere here and a coordinate somewhere here. I don't know. I'm gonna decide later. And let's say I also want to add some area under the curve, so some Riemann rectangles from, let's say, -2 to 0. So I want to do that. And I also, this is what I also want to add on to this animation for whatever reason. I want to have a secant line or a tangent line to some point there. And then I've got all of this space on the right side of the screen for some text / latex if I need to. Alright, so let's see if we can build it up from there. So that's the plan. And I'm gonna have that to refer back to. So I go back to my code. I go right. Import your stuff from Manim. Get numpy as np because you don't want to be stumped on pi even though we're not using it. And then create a class, inherit from graph scene, because a lot of this stuff here we're going to just use it from graph scene, which is a template for graphing that Grant has already made. And if you want to check out more of it, you control and click. So you hold control on your keyboard and you click on graph scene and VS Code will pull it up. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff here. I might zoom out so we can see a little bit more. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can change. There's like x minimum, x maximum, width, which we'll talk about. And there's a couple that I don't really care about, like this one here and this one here. Like I won't really use them. And so anyway, I've got them loaded up in here. So x minimum, I'll have a look. I want it to start from 0. Sorry, no I didn't. -3 is what I wanted to start from. X max, I wanted to go up to 3. Y minimum was 0. X maximum was 10. So I go back here. Alright, well it's sort of going to look like this. Okay, I'm going to have -3 all the way up to 3. And then 0 all the way up to 10 on the Y axis. Okay, cool. Let me close this for now. And what I'm also going to have a look at is my X axis width. Now if I go back, my x-axis, I wanted it to have a width of, and I wanted to keep a little note of this color here, of this number, 6. So your width is going to tell you, alright, if you're going to start at some point, you're going to go along 6 units. If I change that width to 8, my graph would be going along here, and if I wanted to add some text or latex or whatever, that wouldn't really be ideal. So I want to just keep it nicely tucked away on one side of the screen. At least that's how I want to plan it out. So I'll keep that at 6. Up at the x-axis or the y-axis height, I wanted it to be 5. I wanted it to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. And at the moment it says 6, so I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that to 5. I add another parameter here, which is axis color. I like white to keep it clean. Okay, now graph origin. This is another guy we can play with here. And we'll have a look. Well, where is the graph origin? Well, it's right here. And if we line up where that is, that's going to be, well, we've gone to the left 3 from the origin here. So this is the original origin. We've gone to the left 3 and down 2. So I need to make that adjustment there. Otherwise, I'm going to have something that's centered here and it's going to go up 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's going to be off the screen. So I've got to make sure I get my origin right, which is left times 3 plus right times, plus down times 2. That was axis color, you absolute goose. Down times 2 plus left times 3. Call the x-axis x, call the y-axis y. Now list the numbers here. From x, I'm going from -3 all the way up to 3, but the way Python works is that you've got to put a +1 on the end. So, or you could alternatively say 4 if you want the number 3 to show on your axis. I'm just going to keep it at 3 plus 1, and I want it to grow in 1. So it's like start point for numbers, end point for numbers, and in intervals of 1. And for the y-axis, I want it to start at 0, end at 10, plus 1, because I want it to end at 10, in intervals of 2. And then, so I've got my axis set up, so I say self, set up axis, animate equals true. So it's going to animate it. What I also want to put onto my axis here was a graph, or a function. And the way I do that is by using the self.getGraph method. So self.getGraph, and I'm going to call it by a lambda function, because lambda functions make for easy work. And so I wanted to just call the quadratic on there. Now with getGraph, you've got x minimum, which I'm going to set at -3, and x maximum, set it at a 3, because I only want this quadratic to go from -3 along to 3. And the reason I picked 10 is because if I square -3 and 3, I get 9, so I'll be able to see everything. And I'm going to change the color. I'm going to make it equal to red_c, so a nice shade of red. Alright, so it's coming along pretty well. I've got my axis positioned exactly where I want it. I've got a quadratic. Actually, I might make my quadratic yellow, because that's how I've got it here. I might make it yellow. What I also wanted to add was some coordinates. Now, within the new Manim Community Edition, there is a thing called labeled dot, which personally I wouldn't use, but it's actually a pretty cool addition. So I'm just going to name the mobject coord and labeled dot. Is it double L? No, it's not. And so within it, and so if you want to check it out, you hold Control and you click, and VS Code will take you to it. Yeah, if you want to have a look at what's in it, but it's not going to take me there for the moment. So what goes in there is a label, which you pass through as, I'm just going to call it its coordinate, which is 2, 4. And if I just do that, I'm just going to have a coordinate. So what I'm telling Manim to do here is, okay, take a coordinate and give it a label. So I'm going to have a dot, and it's just going to give me, where's my pen? If I just leave it as is, what's going to happen is, I'm going to have a dot, and it's just going to be left right here. It's going to go, yeah, there's your label, dot, 2, 4. And I'm going to go, well, that's not where I want it. I want it here. I want it on the graph. Okay, and I picked 2, 4 because that would be the coordinates of an input of 2 and an output of 4 on a quadratic. So what I do is I remove it. So I use dot move to. Okay, I'm going to move it to some position. I'm going to say self dot coords to point, and this coords to point method says I'm going to take you from the scene Cartesian coordinate system and put you onto the graphing coordinate system. So okay, coords to point, and I want it to go to 2, 4. Alright, that's what I want it to do. Okay, or alternatively, if you... No, let's not get there yet. Okay, so that's going to move it to where I want it to go. Let's say you don't want to use labeled coordinate. Actually not. Let's see what this looks like. So we're going to save it, and we're going to go self.play, show creation of the graph. And then we're also going to show creation of the coord. Let's have a runtime of 2, and then we're going to wait. And let's see what that looks like. This one's called lec2 graph scene. Alright, again, if we get errors, we're not going to freak out. We're just going to read them. Cool. So it's coming along, and it plays. Alright, as it should be. Okay, and so there's a huge label dot. But as it should be, we've got our axis over on the left side of the screen, as we should have anticipated. Because that's how we've pre-planned our animation out. And so let's say I want to reduce the size of this labeled dot because I don't want it to be so huge. So before I move it, I'm going to scale it, and I'm going to say scale it to 40% of its size, so 0.4, and then move it. Alright, I'm going to add some more stuff. I'm going to say dot